Kang, thank you so much for giving me some time to speak to you. I suppose ostensibly about your new novel, We Do Not Part, but also, of course, since we last spoke with each other, you have been awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. So I want to say, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I know it can be really tricky when an author wins a
Mhm,
prize for a particular book
mhm,
to talk about it as a sort of
mhm,
prize-winning novel.
mhm,
And the nice thing about the Nobel Prize is that it is for a body of work, for
mhm,
everything that you've written so far. And given what you have said yourself in the past about the time it takes you to write and the cost, I suppose, to you personally of that endeavor, does winning something like the Nobel help you to feel as if that endeavor is not just appreciated by the readers of the books, but also perhaps a really worthwhile and important endeavor for you to dedicate your life to, I suppose.
Yeah, I did appreciate it. And, it takes a lot of time to finish one book. So sometimes it takes, as for novels, sometimes it takes at least 1 year, but sometimes it takes 7 years, like We Do Not Part. So, yeah, I have been a writer who publishes written works for 31 years. So yeah, when I heard the announcement, I felt really, yeah, grateful. Yeah and and one thing I'm thinking to myself right now is I'm going to write on. So I hope nothing is changed, and I just want to write on my books, because in my head I have three books which I'm thinking about for some years. So for after the announcement, for almost 3 months, I had to write an essay for the lecture, and
Mm.
I had to be prepared for the prize. But now I have come back to my routine, and yeah, I'm just going right on.
I'm sure, like many writers, you're happiest when you are back at home in your writing environment, doing what you want to do,
Yeah,
rather than having to explain your work and things like that for
right.
prizes. We're going to talk a bit about We Do Not Part, your new novel, but it is, I think, particularly one of those novels where trying to talk about the plot or what happens in the book is very tricky. So, in fact, we'll probably talk more about some of the themes that are contained within the novel. But you did mention there that this is a book which took 7 years for you to
Mhm.
write. And the novel opens with its main character, King Ha, having a dream. And I understand from that lecture that you mentioned at the Nobel that this is a real dream that you had
Right.
7 years before finishing writing the novel. Would you mind, first of all, explaining a bit about that dream and I suppose what that dream made you feel initially? I suppose the spur for writing.
I had that dream, which is on the first couple of pages of We Do Not Part in 2014, right after the publication of Human Acts in South Korea.
Mm.
So Human Acts was published in May, and I had this dream in June. So it was very. So I initially I thought that dream was about Gwangju massacre because I had a lot of dreams or nightmares while writing Human Acts. But this dream was very special, so as soon as I woke up, I wrote down about my dream. And after I finished can I say, the dream, I could feel this could be a start of another something, another story or another novel or anything. So I wanted to search about the next pages of this dream. So I thought about this dream for some years, and I wrote on after the dream in some versions. So I have several versions of We Do Not Part, but finally I found my right way in 2018. Maybe because I had the very small studio in Jeju Island, but not for writing about Jeju massacre, because just because I love the island. Even when I was in 20s, I had a small studio there, and it was a very precious memory for me. So I rented a studio in 2018, and for a couple of years I went back and forth, Jeju Island, and then I came back to Seoul. So I had quite a lot of time in Jeju, so I could feel the weather and I could learn the dialect. They have a very special dialect,
Mm.
which is different from South Korean language. So yeah, and I could feel the island very close to my body, and then slowly I could see the whole picture of this book, and I wanted my dream to be the center of the book, and I imagined my characters entering into that dream.
You mentioned there Human Acts, your novel, which was about the Gwangju massacre, and uh, you have spoken about that book and obviously the the toll that it takes to write about something which is filled with so much violence and to which your family, of course, has a very personal connection. And I was interested by something that Kyung Ha says at the beginning of We Do Not Part, which is having decided to write about mass killings and torture, how could I so naively, brazenly hoped to soon shirk off the agony of it, to so easily be bereft of its traces? And it's interesting that you sort of put yourself back into that frame of writing about violence with the new book about the Jeju massacre, which I think a lot of English readers in particular may not know about that period of history in Korea.
First, I'd like to talk about the sentence you quoted.
Mm,
Human acts and we do not part are the pair.
mhm.
If I didn't write human acts, I couldn't have written We Do Not Part. They are directly connected, and and the quote is 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 directly mine. I mean, I asked that question to myself during when I was writing Human X, and after I wrote Human X, and even after the publication, I naively thought I could be free of the pain, and but it it was not like that. So I wanted to deal with this pain, and 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 I wanted to know the cause of the pain, and I supposed maybe love is there because almost every reader of Human Acts talked to me about their pain,
Hmm.
which uh, they could feel while reading Human Acts. So it was like we were connected with this pain, and we have the same cause, and then maybe the cause is our belief and love towards humans or this world. So yeah, I wanted to deal with this love, and I had this dream, and I wanted to search the meaning of this dream. Maybe this dream is about our memory or our trauma, and time, and our love, hopefully. So these books are very closely connected, and in Human X, in the epilogue part, it has my own autobiographical parts in it, and in the and as for the first part of We Do Not Part, you cannot say it is 100% of my autobiographical factors, but it has this, like your quote, it has my own thoughts and I wanted to delve into my own question in the very first part of We Do Not Part. So in that way, I wanted to be the bridge between the reality and the fiction, because I'm alive in this world with everyone, and then because there are some fragments of mine, and then readers hopefully can relate the whole book with this real world. So in that way, these two books are quite similar, but the forms are very different from each other.
Am I right in thinking so Jeju Island is far south from South Korea, and it was in 1948 at that time when there was American interference, let's say, in the region, and as part of quelling the sort of dissent that was present on Jeju Island, the people there wanting to resist the idea of things being imposed on them, the army and the police basically went across to the island, and tens of thousands of people were massacred, many of them innocent women and children, under the idea that they were harboring or hiding people who were part of the uprising. Is that that's a very, very broad brushstroke summary, but conservative, I mean, sort of low estimates are we're talking about 30,000 people who were murdered, and it could be much higher, more like 80,000 people. Is that correct?
In my opinion, it is 30,000 people because I don't know, who knows, because it is very long time ago and I have researched the materials and I got lots of help from institute, the local research institute in Jeju Island, and I talked with them. And officially, it is 15,000 people, but they said you have to double the number always because there are many people who there are many families who are killed altogether, so there become no one remaining to report their cases.
Yeah.
And there are many people who were missing as well, and there were many people who fled to Japan, which is close to Jeju Island. So they say if you double the official number, it could be correct. And so, in my opinion, it is 30,000, which is 1/10 of the population of Jeju Island at the time. So it means everyone who survived the massacre is the witness or bereaved, or they have witnessed everything.
In We Do Not Part, your protagonist Kyung Ha goes to Jeju Island at the behest of her friend Inseon, and whilst there, she discovers this history of the Jeju massacre, and we'll talk more about the significance of that later. But in her journey to Jeju, she does this during a snowstorm, and snow is a really, really important motif, if you like, in this book. I went for a run this morning before doing this interview, and it's -2 degrees here. And as I was running, freezing, I was so reminded of reading the book because you describe at several points the the cold that King Ha's going through. But snow is more than that. Could you tell me a little bit about the importance of snow as a theme or a motif in We Do Not Part?
Yeah, I wanted the snow to fall from the beginning to the end in this novel, and the snow is falling between the sound and silence, and between the living and the dead, and reality and the dream, and so snow falls between everything, and snow has this magical, can I say, magical force that awakens us. So as for me, whenever I see the first snow, I feel the important, I feel I can discern the important things and unimportant things. Suddenly it gives me some very clear intuition. So, and I imagine the snow falling, like filling the space where maybe I'm not religious, maybe the God could be there, but in the vacantness of the space, the snow is falling. I imagine that kind of snow, which is falling from the beginning till the end. And I thought of the circulation of water a lot while writing this book, because this book is dealing with Jeju massacre and even bigger massacre in South Korea during the Korean War, but it is related to maybe all the massacres in our world and throughout the time and throughout the history and throughout the world. Tragically, these massacres are universal for us. So, and like water is circulating, because the wind is circulating the globe, and the sea is circulating, and there is the circulation of water. So if you had the snow in London this morning, and it could be the snow or rain of Seoul some years ago. It is possible. In that way, all the humans are connected, and we are all related. So so snow is something like that.
That idea of connection, you're talking there, I suppose, about a physical connection of something like air currents and sea currents and water. But connection is such an important part of this book too. I suppose, first of all, the relationship between Kyung Ha and In as friends. At the beginning of the book, Kyung Ha has isolated herself and cut off quite a few friends, and is surprised to be contacted by In out of the blue. But what becomes important during their conversation in the book is that despite feeling very alone, In says, you still have me, we still have this connection. Friendship is clearly, I suppose the friendship between these two women is really important. Can you tell me a little bit about writing that, I suppose, and how special that connection is between the two of them, despite not having spoken for some time?
So at first, Kyung-ha looks like the protagonist, and then In-sun becomes important more and more, and then there is Jung-sim, who is the mother of In-sun. So there are three women who are connected, and it's like electric current. So some electric currents are connecting these three women, and I imagine that connection. So I divided this book into three, and in the first part, they horizontally, Kyung-ha goes to Jeju Island, and then in the second part, Kyung-ha and In-sun, they goes under the sea, under the ocean vertically, and they are reaching the human basement, and then they light their candle, and they encounter Jung-sim's life, the core of Jung-sim's life. And so in that way, the three women are connected, and then what they found at the basement of humanity and with the candlelight is love of Jung-sim. So they find that Jung-sim is someone who doesn't bid farewell, and they find Jung-sim has never given up, and she mourned as much as possible, and she didn't want to stop her mourning, and she strived all her life to get just one a small bone of her loved ones. So eventually they are connected with this love. So I wanted to reach the end, which is which is dealing with this love like a flame.
As you say, the other really important relationship is that between Insian and her mother, Jung Sim. Um, and I thought it was really interesting that earlier on in her life, when she was a younger girl, she had found her mother so annoying and insufferable that she had run away from home or attempted to run away from home. Something which I believe many teenagers can relate to. Children or people who have parents often regard or think about their parents in a particular way, which is to do with them being parents. Often people who have to tell them off or discipline them or bring them up. And it can be tricky sometimes for people to think about their parents as just simply being another adult, somebody who has been through all sorts of things in their life, as you might be. And Insian, through discovering what her mother has been through, and therefore why she is the way she is, discovers this whole other person, I suppose. And as you said, that discovery of love, that connection between them, becomes much stronger when she knows about this family history. So, my question, I suppose, is do you think that everybody could benefit from talking to their parents more about their history, discovering more about what they've been through, and I suppose relating to them as just simply another adult rather than a mother or father?
Yeah. So Insan, no, had Insan misunderstood her mother, and Insan's mother Jongsim had to sleep on the saw, because she believed the saw, the something acute, something like knife or saw, something like that, could fight with nightmares. So she believed in this superstition.
Hmm.
Superstition. Yeah, she believed in this kind of superstition, but Insan had no way to understand the content of her mother's nightmare. Just it was like just as as for as far as she could imagine, the nightmare of her mother was just like ordinary nightmare, but after many years she discovers Changshim's nightmares were about her experience, her trauma after the massacre. So yeah, so she could understand his mother. She could understand her mother after she knew about her mother, and so yeah, it can happen between parents and their children, or even between friends. If I know you, I can understand you better, and maybe I have misunderstood you for a long time. So yeah, of course, I believe it can help if you know each other and if you ask questions to each other.
I believe you were quite young. I think you were about 12 years old when you found a book called the Gwangju photo book, and this was the book where you saw these images of people who had been massacred, and that sort of begun what would later become the process of writing Human Acts. And then in We Do Not Part, there is a lot of documentary evidence, photographs, and newspapers, and it's all very tactile, physical. It's all about having something written down. And I wondered whether I know that We Do Not Part is fiction, but of course it is filled with fact. And I wondered whether there is something. I'm holding up the book now because I wondered whether there's something about having this story and this history in a physical form, which is really important, particularly today when we live in a world of digital misinformation. Is there something important about literally writing something like this down so that people can hold it and pass it on?
Yeah, I'm a person who believes in book, so and paper book especially. So yeah, I grew up with the physical kind of existence of so many books, and yeah, and especially Human Acts and We Do Not Part. They are based on the true incidents, and I try to be really truthful while writing these two books, and I researched every material which I could see and read, and yeah, so you can trust this book about the can I say things which really happened. And I collected every material, and even I collected the magazine which is called IIIN, which is the local very stylish magazine in Jeju Island, and I collected every edition, and it contained the corner I loved, which is called Ask Granny. So, the reporter visits the villages, and she finds very generous and warm and funny grannies, and then she, before visiting the grannies, she collects the questions from the readers. So they're just questions about their life, so their loneliness, and they ask solutions to the grannies. And then I love that corner, and 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 yeah, they were really funny, and they gave all the questions a very nice and wise answers. And I found in every section of the edition, I could find a comment about Jeju massacre, because they experienced the massacre when they were young.
Mm.
And as I told you, everyone who survived the massacre is the bereaved or witnessed witnesses. So they when the readers asked them about their solitude, or and then the grannies advised them with using their own experience during the massacre, and it was really moving, and it was really real, raw and real. So I collected the magazines, and then and I tried to learn the dialect, and I collected all the testimony books which were published by the research institute in Jeju Island. So I really wanted to be truthful. And
There's a very famous quote, probably too often quoted by William Faulkner, who said, "The past is never dead. It's not even past." And I think about that quote a lot when I'm reading novels which are about things that have happened in the past. But it seems to me that you, in particular, have, through novels like Human Acts and We Do Not Part, and the White Book as well, it seems to me a really unique ability to write about things from the past in a way that feels very connected, very present. And I was going to ask how you achieve that, but I think part of that is what you've just been talking about, which is meticulous research, to make sure you've got to the truth of the matter. But I don't think that that's enough, and I think there's something about connection or empathy that allows you to make that really live on the page. Are you able to sort of say what it is you do to make sure that what you're writing about feels really present now?
I always try to use my sensation when I write, and I try to lend my sensation, my life to the people I'm describing. So yeah, I want to feel together, and I want to even live together with them. And the scenes which I'm writing is for me, it's real. It's
Mm.
real. It's real, and in the I'm in there, and yeah. So, and that's all. So it's like electric currents. I want to feel as them, and I use my own experiences of my sensation, and so I hope the electric currents to connect the sentences with my sensation, and hopefully with the readers. And there's no secret, just that's all.
You're sort of hinting there as well. I think, you again, I think in your Nobel lecture, you spoke about the physicality of writing for you, as you say, how you want to feel those sensations. And is that partly what you mean as well when you talk about the cost to you when you're writing? If you're using all of those physical sensations, does that have an impact on you? Is it tiring, for example? Do you need space after you finish writing something to recover from what has been not just a mental exercise, but a very physical one too?
Yeah, writing is quite an attachment for me. So I feel this attachment between me and my book, and my existence and my book. They are relying on each other. So after I finish a book, it's like some it's like I have lost something I can rely on. So I hope I make sense to you. So yeah, it's like losing my best friend, and because we were so close, and then no, so yeah. So after I finish a book, it's more difficult rather than while rather than the period I'm writing the book. And then there is this period I come back to my life. I can retrieve myself, and then I become very natural myself, and then and I gather all the energies, and after some time I start my new book, and and it begins, this attachment begins my center or my core, and then we rely each other, me and my book. They they rely on each other.
You mentioned there that you, after finishing a book, of course, there'll be a period of getting back to yourself, and then you move on to write the next thing. And you've mentioned that there are a few things that you're sort of writing at the moment. I will not ask you what's coming next, or even to go in any details, but I know that you have said that there is a connection between the books that you write, which is often that you will begin writing with a question, and the process of writing may not give you the answer to that question, but it'll give you a new question to answer with the next book. At the end of We Do Not Part, are you able to share, I suppose, what the next question is that you're wrestling with?
Now I'm thinking of life, life itself. I'm thinking of it now. So maybe, and so I have written about the snow a lot, and I initially, before I started We Do Not Part, I had this triptych in my mind. So 3 novellas about winter or the snow, and of which background is Seoul. So I already finished the first 2 novellas, and I had the last one, but and I started to write We Do Not Part, and then I realized it is not the third part of this triptych, and it is independent, and it is very different from the first 2 novellas. So I have to finish this triptych, and I try to write the last novella about winter or the spring. So it's not. It's like I feel very cold now, so, because I've written the too much about too much snow. So, but I have to finish this triptych, and after that, I would like to enter the spring, and I would like to write about life itself. So, I would like to move towards the spring or the light.
That's really interesting, and thank you for sharing that, because I know it's very difficult for writers to talk about what they're in the process of writing. So I won't push you any further. But thank you. It's been so brilliant to talk to you, Kang, about We Do Not Part, and indeed some of your other books. As somebody who reads a lot in life, you read a lot of books, and when you're reading books from authors from the past, some of them might be really great books, and even authors who are living might produce books on their own that are really great. But to have a body of work, which, as you say, has a thread that runs through it that is connected, and to be, I suppose, living at a time when a writer is doing such amazing things with literature, is a real privilege for me and an absolute honor to be able to actually speak to you about it. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you for your time in talking a bit about those books.
Thank you so much. It was really lovely to talk with you, and I wish you a happy new year.
Happy New Year and bring on the spring so that snow can melt and we can feel warm
Uh,
again.
that's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.